is Sade, and my pronouns are they, them, and she, her.
I'm Ted, they, them pronouns.
I'm True, my pronouns are she, they.
And today we're talking a bit about the National Trans Health Strategy. One recommendation from that strategy is that the trans community should form allies and engage in activities that promote trans human rights and amplify trans voices. They should engage in activities promoting trans human rights in the language of health. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. What are some experiences you have had in the health community?
A couple months ago, I went to the doctor's office here in Kingston. I had to get a specific test done, and at the time I was wearing body tape underneath my clothing. It's also one of the first times I was wearing body tape in public, and the doctor had noticed the tape when doing the test and asked a few questions about why I was wearing it and kind of what it was for. And after I expressed that it just makes me feel more comfortable in my gender identity, he then proceeded to ask like why I'm not comfortable with my boobs, and he was specifically basically wanting to know like how I personally felt about my own body, which I felt was a bit invasive for him to ask that. And I think that experience is probably very common for people who identify as non-binary like myself, and I believe in health spaces especially, like people have to be very vulnerable when they enter that space because they're seeking care for something that they could feel embarrassed about or that they're just not very comfortable about. And that was one of my experiences, but I'm sure it's a very common experience for other people in my community.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing. The next question is, what is one improvement you would like to see in the health industry?
Well, I just like there to be more inclusivity when it comes to language, specifically with like data collection. I feel like when I go to just like any doctor's office, when they're asking my gender, it's like man or woman. There is not any like non-binary options. So I don't feel very seen in these spaces, and that's one thing that I'd really like to change, because it would change the language and it would change like comfort, as you were talking about before. So.
Thank you. What is one improvement you would like to see in the health industry?
I think tying into what you were just saying, definitely more options on forums, and definitely more questions being asked. For example, like if I'm going for a doctor's visit or even just a checkup, like asking what my pronouns are is a big deal to me. That way I know for the rest of the visit you're going to refer to me in a way that makes me comfortable and not necessarily in a way that makes you comfortable. And then just in general, I think like being more open-minded and being more aware of the fact that who enters your doctor's office is not necessarily going to be a cis woman or a cis man. And I think like making sure that your healthcare providers are actively doing their education and their part to become aware of people outside of the cis community would be a really good improvement for the health industry.
But we're training.
Yes.
That's very, very true. Or even some training. There's no training when it comes on to things like this. So I hope you guys are listening, health sector. What are some challenges you have accessing education? How does this affect your quality of life?
Well, I don't think that I have problems with accessing education. Right now I'm cis-passing. I think a lot of other people might have issues in that aspect, but for me personally, I just don't. As I was saying before, there's just no acknowledgement. So like when I'm like signing up to any like education, just like any course or anything, there isn't anything that asks about, you know, just my specific gender identity. They come in thinking that I'm a cis person, then they acknowledge me as such. And if I even try to talk about just my identity, just blank stares. They don't know what I'm talking about, or there's just no acknowledgement in that sphere. So
thank you. And we can imagine that it must be even harder for some other people in our community, you know. How has your identity affected your ability to get housing or to keep housing, if it has?
Well, it has affected my ability to keep housing. Right now on my apartment complex, I am out. I don't like hide my identity. When my friends come over, we're all out. So the people that are on my apartment complex, they keep their children from me. They don't speak to me. It's very hostile. It's a very hostile environment, and I'm in fear of like eviction because I'm afraid that they're going to hurt me or hurt one of my friends.
Wow, thanks for sharing. I definitely have been rejected from housing specifically because I'm queer. I can recall a specific instance where I went, my normal self, and it was like a older Christian woman, and she was like, oh, hi, Ray, and as she's talking to me, like she's just looking me up and down and up and down, and she was like, okay, where do you work? And I had a really good job at the time, was making good money, had good references.
So there's no reason to reject you.
And she was like, can I ask you a personal question? And I already was like, okay, this is gonna be bad. I was like, sure. She was like, are you a Christian? I was like, no. She was like, are you gay? I was like, yes. She was like, I'm a Christian, so I don't think this is gonna work out. And it was a really nice place, but I'm glad I found out sooner than later still, you know what I mean? But it definitely can affect directly your access to getting anywhere.
You're just feeling comfortable where you are.
Feeling comfortable where you are, even if you do get the place. And then even, for example, renting venues is for venues, from the find out you're a queer entity or organization or having a queer event, they will literally have you deposit and call you back and be like, we looked online and so but thank you guys for sharing your experiences.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Blessings.